I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
And I know that like my little internal voice was like, you're really not being very nice to him right now. Like, does he really deserve that? And that it was that moment where I'm like, wow, this person really cares, and I'm safe to explore some things that maybe I wasn't able to do on my own.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is about how one couple runs a restaurant together and somehow manages not to kill each other in the process. Now, this concept about married couples who work together is something that we've heard about on the show before, but I wanted to bring our guests today, Adam and Stacy Jed, onto the show because they're really sort of the rock stars of this balancing act. Adam and Stacy run a very successful, very highly regarded, and I must say gorgeous restaurant in San Francisco called Bluestem Brasserie. If you haven't tried it, you definitely should. I suggest the lamb. But as Stacy says in the interview, it's not just a business to them, it's an extension of themselves. And that's both the reason for their extraordinary hours that you'll hear about on the episode, and it's the secret to their success, both in love and in the business. So, with that to set the stage, before I give away too much, let's go to our interview with Adam and Stacy Jed. Well, welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming into our crazy cavern of what is it?
This is a recording studio. It's all good.
Funky Cold Medina is what we were told earlier, but
we called it we called it a live recording den.
Anything to get you here.
Yes. Oh, right. What did you call it?
Oh, I think he called it like a Korean barbecue place. Did you have some kalbi in the corner?
I think that's your stomach talking.
Yeah, because exactly what you guys need is another restaurant.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly what we need. Yeah, multiply those paint chips by 12.
Okay, now speaking of restaurants, the reason that I really have wanted to interview you guys for so long is that you own a restaurant, you're married, you manage the restaurant, and you haven't killed each other yet.
That is absolutely correct.
I take the fifth.
Slight technicality in that the restaurant actually owns us.
That's true.
It's minor.
Yeah.
To be clear,
you focus where you want to put your anger, and since we both have the same directional location on that, we're.
No, she's being facetious. It's all directed at me. Oh yeah. So what's you are correct. Yes, we do work together. We did start our own business together, and that business happens to be a restaurant.
Yeah.
And now a lot of people say they work together, but you know, it's you guys work together.
We do.
That's an intense environment. I mean, I used to visit this restaurant pretty frequently when it first opened, and you guys are full-time, non-stop from early morning to late at night, running around, keeping that place alive. And it's a big restaurant. That's not just some little mom-and-pop breakfast diner. Yeah. We're talking major, that's a major operation. Mm-hmm. High stress.
Yeah.
Do you go home smelling like grease, too?
Monkeys is usually what we think of ourselves as at the end of the night. We smell like monkeys. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where you go into it thinking, how in the world could I work alongside my life partner and business partner all day long? And it honestly for us has kind of brought our relationship together even more. You spend a good amount of time with your partner and you can identify if you're going to get along. You intensify that by doing it 24/7, and it's a sink or swim. I think you'd know pretty quickly out the gate whether it's going to work or not. And for us, we had been married for about 10 years already and kind of knew how to work together, how to dance together.
Had you ever worked together before, though? I mean,
When we first got married, we took the plunge and bought a rather dilapidated 1906 house. And Adam was, he was at work one day, and I said, I called him up and I said, I really didn't like the color in the kitchen. It was this, circa 1970s yellow. And he says, okay, well, we can repaint it. And I'm like, well, actually, I tore it down. And
you tore down the...
Stacy and her magic hammer goes bam, bam.
Tore the kitchen down?
Yeah,
While he was at work?
Yeah, and it was funny too because we have this amazing picture of this little dustbin that we bought, for the first time homeowner, this little tiny dustbin, and I'm standing in a pile of rubble trying to like sweep that up, and I think it just kind of
sheetrock parts. Yeah,
I literally tore the whole thing down. And I think that's kind of where it started. We were, we just went in head first and renovated this house together over the first probably 5 years of our marriage.
Yeah, we added 2 inches to the kitchen.
It took 5 years. Let me just highlight this.
Yes.
Because
yes, we moved, we bought a house, and we started a new job all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which you're saying those because you must know too the statistics say that those each individually
are a bad idea.
Things that will break up a couple.
Totally. And again, it was one of those things where we had this, common goal that we were working towards, and neither one of us were going into it having any idea what to do. I mean, when at the time Home Depot was open 24 hours a day, and they had late at night people that were, plumbers and electricians that were making extra cash, and they would work the graveyard shift. So we'd go in and we'd talk to people and ask them, so how exactly do you put this wall back up?
Wait, was this pre-YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously. Home Depot 123.
Yeah.
It was an amazing book. It was like Cliff's Notes for renovating a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, we went into it again, not knowing how to do what we were doing, and just confident enough that we could figure it out. And so we did. We spent 5 years, and it, I think, really helped to solidify what we already knew when we first got married.
She was right.
That we made a great partnership. And so when we went into opening our own business, that's, fast forward 10 years,
right.
We had some good experiences under our belt to know that when times got tough, that we knew how to kind of work through those issues and what each of our strengths and weaknesses were.
I'm wondering if you also had evidence, if you had chosen to pay attention to it, you could also have found evidence that you two were a disaster.
Completely.
Well, I think accepting the fact that you are somewhat of a human disaster is kind of the foundation by which you can kind of build up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing too, if you think about it, you're going into, for example, with our house, we'd go into situations that we couldn't work through finding the solution through for the problem, and I might get frustrated and walk out the door and have to walk around the block and just want to give up, want to throw up my hands. And in that moment, I saw where my shortcomings were, but I also then saw my partner's strengths. And there was this moment where he would reel me back in and be like, okay, I know this is challenging. I know you don't want to deal with it anymore, but we have to deal with it because, you won't be able to take a shower tomorrow if you don't figure out.
We had a bucket system. It was good. Oh, did we mention it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house?
Yeah.
It was
a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and we renovated the bathroom. So there was a good.
So at one point,
there really was a bucket system.
There really was a bucket system.
Well, we got actually
and a gym.
We went to the gym actually a lot. We had health club membership. Which
how long did that last?
Longer than anticipated.
Longer than we wanted.
You guys.
I know, it's great.
It's like you just revel in the adventure or the chaos or something.
Yeah, it's you just
or the creative mix or something.
All of it.
All of it.
Stacy, shortly after we got married, Stacy kind of came to me and said she had actually a better paying job than we do today, and said, not only do I want to quit my job, but I want to go back to school for architecture. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget. I mean, we sat down and we kind of talked through it and said, all right, let's do it. I, at the time, was somewhat in a transitional phase. I had a job, but it wasn't the right one for me at the time, obviously. And she was pretty much the breadwinner at that time. And we just said, all right, we'll figure it out.
So then you added on top of all of those other things.
Oh, I wasn't kidding.
Financial strain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you finish that degree?
I did. Yeah.
And then never used it, right?
Yeah,
Well, I used it for about 4 years, and then I was able to parlay that into, a lot of the design and event planning, and I went. Architecture is, in my opinion, just a different way of looking at the world, and how to see things and how to problem solve.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of what we were doing, and probably what drew me into the field or the industry, is that's what we were doing for 5 years, is problem solving.
Right.
And we were doing it both physically with the house, and we were doing it with our relationship. And there were, it wasn't always rosy. We didn't always.
Did you say it was okay to curse on this podcast?
Yeah, there were a lot of times where there was tension between the two of us.
Did you guys almost ever divorce?
I think there were probably a couple of times that we got really close to it. I'm not sure if it was as much of facing a fear, because when you're with someone who's really committed to you, and I feel strongly that Adam is committed to me, and I'm certainly committed to him, but they don't let you look away from the mirror. And sometimes a situation will put you front and center to that mirror of your own shortcomings, your own issues. And, when you're single, or if you're dating, and you don't necessarily have to face that issue. But a partner who's committed to you is like, hey, let's take a look at that. And I'm here. I'm going to hold your hand if you need it. But you can't just throw that under the rug.
Well, you say that, but people do all the time. I mean,
all the time.
When you say that your partner's holding you to the mirror,
yeah,
what specifically does that mean?
I think there's times, for example, we've been watching the debates over these, last few weeks, and you're seeing, people going at each other and looking for their weaknesses and trying to undermine, and it's politics. And when you're in a relationship and you're in an argument, and maybe you're not winning that argument in your mind, it's like I'm trying to get my point across, and you're not getting it, and I feel like I'm losing this battle, and you may want to just walk away and just say, well, to hell with it, fuck you, I'm over, I'm done. And someone who's committed is going to say, is not going to necessarily take that in the moment as a personal defeat on themselves. They're taking that as, hey, I need to step in and lean into you and say, hey, take a look at that. What is it? What are you afraid of? Forget this argument right now. What's going on? What's happening for you? Because we've worked through other issues and had no problem. But what is happening right here, right now for you? And that's someone who's committed to you.
I think also holding, somebody to the mirror is this idea of, we all get worked up in our mind of what we think reality is like.
Yeah.
And the mirror in many ways is obvious. Mm-hmm. And I think a real partner kind of stands there next to them in the mirror and says, all right, whatever you think you're seeing, this is what you're actually seeing. And we can face this together.
Or what you're actually seeing? Is that right? It is what you're actually seeing?
Listen, the truth is, just 10 minutes ago, I'm terrible with synonyms. So metaphors, anecdotes, all of those kind of things. I can tell a story in circles. But no, I think what it is truly confronting a challenge instead of stepping to the side or stepping away or making it up to be something that it isn't or whatever. That mirror is a reflection of you in many ways.
Well, I do love this idea that when you're this idea that if you're committed, you see, because we all have those moments where you're just furious. And it somehow just springs up. And you almost don't have control of it in those moments. It just wells up, and suddenly you're reacting, and you're reacting in a way that you're not entirely proud of. And it's this lovely idea that with a partner who you're committed to, you can take those moments as indications of something to be explored,
Exactly.
as opposed to in a personal attack that needs to be responded to in kind, which is just going to create more of it. And that's a lovely idea. So, but now I want to hear of a specific example.
Let's see. I'll give you an example. Actually, there was a point when we had gutted the floors, gutted the kitchen. I think the bathroom was halfway there, and there was an attic to the house. And we had moved pretty much all of our belongings into boxes and into the garage for storage. And we were just, living on like the 5 essential items that you need to live. And we were living up in this attic, and it was dusty, and it was hot and messy, and
there was a carpet.
There was a carpet. There was a bed, and I just was like, "This sucks." Why the fuck are we doing this? This sucks. I know that, why didn't we just buy a house that already had everything in place? Why didn't we just get a turnkey house? Why did we do this? I was starting to kind of lose sight of it all, and it was just starting to wear. And this was probably like, we're into year 3 at this point, and we're out kind
of 5
of 5. Well, the last couple of years really was just the
finishing
details. But I think year 3 was really where it was tough. We didn't have a kitchen. We didn't have, and I suddenly took all of that frustration and anger, and I couldn't keep it in anymore, and I just started turning it towards Adam, and I just was like, it's all your fault that we're in this mess. Maybe if you had a better job, or maybe if, this, that, and the other. It all just started bubbling up, and it became almost vicious and ugly. And in that moment, someone who may have been a very different person could have just fought right back at me and could have gotten very offended and angry and let their anger bubble up to the surface. And I remember, I think I almost like physically tried to walk out the door, and he stopped me, and he's like, wait a minute, sit down. What's going on for you? What's going on here? Like you're projecting all of this frustration and anger of what we're doing here on the house towards me. Is it me? And instead of just staying at the surface, he really started going deep. And what came out of it was a whole lot of stuff that I didn't even know I was processing. A whole lot of fear and anxiety around, making decisions and the right decisions, and, what am I doing with my life? And I mean, just everything came out. And it then became this moment of healing. It became this moment of, wow, you're not walking away when, my God, I pulled out all the stops to push you away. I tried in that moment, and there's kind of, you have like this internal dialogue, that we're almost observing ourselves in moments, and you see what you're doing. You're like, did I really just say that just now? Like, shut up.
Right?
Like you're still going, you're still yelling,
It is funny how
you are turning into an asshole right now, and I know that like my little internal voice was like, you're really not being very nice to him right now. Like, does he really deserve that? And that it was that moment where I'm like, wow, this person really cares, and I'm safe to explore some things that maybe I wasn't able to do on my own, and that there wasn't someone that I'd been with and committed to before that was willing to do that.
So, okay, now you've been talking about sort of the dynamic of not killing each other in the conflict that inevitably arises when you're taking on projects together.
Right.
And what I want to know now is, in the restaurant business, though, it's just more. I mean, okay, so you had learned the lessons. I get that. You definitely had a strong foundation. You had figured out a way to use the conflict to better understand each other. But then you step into this environment. It's not, I mean, it's like a battlefield every day that you're inviting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's controlled chaos every step of the way.
Do you guys have practices to relieve the stress?
There's one thing that I have found that really makes a difference, and that is identifying what is your core competency. What is it that you're really brilliant at?
Yeah.
And make that thing what the other person doesn't have. And so there's experiences that I have and strengths that I have that contribute to the business that Adam would be unable to contribute, and vice versa. And that allows both of us to, and speaking for myself, it allows me to still really admire him while not stepping on his toes. I'm not trying to one-up him in the business. I'm not trying to have the better answer to the same problem.
Yeah.
I'm able to admire and really hear some of these really great ideas I never would have considered, because he's really focused on the operations, or really focused on, and I'll be focusing on another part of the business that he doesn't have a lot of depth in.
Adam, what are the breakdowns? Core competency breakdowns.
Well, I don't know if it's a breakdown per se. I think Stacy and I over the years have really kind of accepted the fact that we each have our areas and we don't step on each other's toes in those areas. And I know Stacy said that, and she talked about core competencies. But as an example, when it comes to marketing and PR, I really take a back seat. And I give my input and my insight, but at the end of the day, the decision has to come from that person as the leader. So we take pause probably and genuinely treat it like a business. It just happens to be our business. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges and potentials for breakdown, I think, is when people start almost internalizing it and making it personal.
Yeah.
It's like that person made that decision to not move forward with this specific component of the business because they don't like me. No.
Right.
And I think you have to assume the positive. One has to assume the positive, because you're right. I mean, the restaurant business is probably one of the greatest, call it impact businesses, I guess. We have a deadline every few seconds.
Right.
We're not talking minutes. We're not even talking days. We're talking seconds.
Yeah.
And you one in the restaurant business can very easily get caught in a firefighter mode.
Yes.
And that is a very dangerous place to be, because that's when you start to react and you start to kind of punch back.
Right.
And so even though you're dealing with these firefighter situations, gosh, we have to get food out on table 52, or we have to, get a party taken care of, or we have an event coming up where we have to serve 1,500 bites.
Or the bartender's sick and...
More than you know.
Yes. End quote.
Yeah. But you have to get yourself, one has to get yourself out of that firefighter mode, because it's a dangerous place to be, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the scariest thing with any relationship, when you don't know what's next, or don't have thought around what's next, because none of us actually know what's next. We have a plan and we hope that plan happens, but as long as we're talking about where we want to be going and where we want to be getting to, it's kind of that long winding road until you get to the end.
But how do you get out of fire? I mean, I really get the point, but how do you not be in firefighter mode?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it is your perspective.
It's all perspective.
One of the keys we learned in owning a business together and working day in, day out, and we have 90 plus employees, is that you have to keep yourself as a student at all times. While you're leading a team, you're still learning, and learning implies that you will adapt and you will change and you will process. A lot of times when Adam and I would come into conflict and it was coming into the relationship, it came many times from the staff getting mixed messages. You know, they'd get direction from Adam of, you know, going in one direction, and then I'd come in unknowing that they had spoken, and I'd give a different direction.
Right.
And it again put a mirror up to both of us to say, hey, we're not on the same page.
Right.
And you can either hold your ground and get, you know, very adamant about what you believe in, or you can learn from the moment and say, okay, what is it that you're seeing that I'm not seeing? Here's what I'm seeing that you're not seeing. And let's come to an answer.
And also division of labor.
And division
Well,
of...
that was a big deal. I mean, I'll never forget. It was, we had just hired a new chef, and we were having a real challenge. I mean, there are a couple of dynamics, because now you're adding a third component into this management relationship, someone who's going to have a very insightful impact on the decision-making process. And we, you know, without getting into the nitty-gritty details, we genuinely sat down and talked about that division of labor. This is going to be your world. And if you don't like the decision that I make in my world, we can talk about it. We can talk about it from a business standpoint. But when the decision's made, we're going to have to stick with it. And we're both going to sit here and make an agreement that that's going to be the decision we go with.
Wait, that was a conversation with Stacy or
Yes,
with the chef?
with Stacy.
Yeah.
That each one is going to be in charge of their department. But once we start to try to, you know, be, you know, the omnipotent, whatever, it doesn't work. You know, if I'm going to try and play God, for lack of a better term, and step on her toes and step on his toes and be a directive and all those kind of things, it will fail.
You guys just really respect each other.
Well, I think you have to.
You've got a lot of respect for each other. I mean, you
Yeah.
really do. And I think each of you sees that the other one respects you.
Well, you know, I think you think about an athlete and training that an athlete goes through, and they have gotten stronger because they've had to, you know, physically break down their muscles and rebuild them again.
Yeah.
And I think for us we're coming up on 16 years of marriage, and we've put a lot of training into our relationship. And each time we've gotten hopefully better at it and stronger from it. And it's not easy. It isn't you know, the stereotypical fairy tale marriage where everything is always blissful and you're not having to ever worry about anything. I mean, we put some serious challenges in our path, and each time we try to grow from it and learn from it. And definitely the respect just comes, you know.
Wait, there's a stereotypical?
So I've been told. So Disney says.
So Disney says, yeah, good point. So, okay, now, well, how many hours a day do you guys work?
Bad question.
Yeah, next
well, let me
question. How many hours do you
Eric,
sleep?
let me take a quick. I think it's important to put in perspective our life. Okay.
Bad question.
Yeah.
That was the.
I know.
We spend
Not enough.
the real answer to that question is how many hours a day do we spend together, and the answer is all of them.
No, that's not the question. It's not, because
Stacy and I get up at about 4:45 every morning.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We go to bed at about midnight, 11:30. Okay.
Okay, but
And you go, how is that humanly possible, right? And the truth is, we find time both together, business, and physical exertion or exercise. So every morning we get up, and we got a couple years ago, we got a little puppy. Have you ever had a?
Yeah, we have a puppy too.
You have a puppy, right? Like, it's life changing. I'm sorry. I know there are people out there that don't like animals, and there are people out there that are allergic to animals. I'm terribly sorry for that. They have these new inventions called hypoallergenic pets. But anyway, this puppy has encouraged us not only to get up every morning, partially because they're going to take a crap in the living room, but because we have to get that dog to the beach every morning for her workout.
Yeah.
So what Stacy and I started doing, and it was about 3 years ago now, being that she's 3, is we get up at about 4:45 in the morning. We work out. We then take the dog to the beach for sunrise. And if you catch a sunrise on the beach
Every day. That's
every day,
Every day.
That's like a once a
day.
year kind of thing for most people.
I know,
Yeah.
part vampire, but I get it. No, yes, every day. And that moment, and I think the key to any relationship, the key to a successful business is one, getting those moments. And those moments that change, that at the end of the day, no matter how tough something is, you can reflect back on something that is greater than you and go, gosh. Okay. So the answer to your question, by the way, Eric,
Yeah.
we're generally at work by about 9 o'clock, unless we're in a studio recording a podcast. And we're usually walking out the door somewhere around 10:30 at night.
Okay. Together.
Yeah.
Together.
Well, okay, but here's my background question.
Yes.
Had you always been the kind of people who didn't need a ton of sleep?
I have. I can't speak for Stacy.
I probably need more sleep than Adam does, but I'm able to find that. If I go home early or take a nap in the afternoon, I don't also need as much sleep because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I know I have done things in previous lives, so to speak, that I haven't totally enjoyed, and so 8 hours feels grueling. Whereas 14 hours of fun is 14 hours of fun.
That is true.
If you
And
enjoy,
it is
if you
fun.
love what you do,
Yeah.
then you don't work a day in your life, right? Isn't
And
that-
the restaurant business is fun. It's just that it's got to get old. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys,
How would it get old?
Well, how many days
It's
a week
different
do you do
all
it?
the time. Don't ask another bad question. We're taking Sunday off, which is our first day off in 2 months, probably ish. Yeah. I think she's saying, she's nodding yes.
Now, if I were an investor,
Yeah.
yes.
I would be pissed at you two for that.
We've had investors say that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, sure, you're saving money by not hiring whomever,
Right.
but normal humans are going to burn themselves out. And you guys, now, I mean, I have watched you at this since you opened, so 5 years,
5 years,
right?
yeah.
And I mean, you're doing amazing. You're not faking. I can tell you're not faking. I can tell I've walked into the restaurant at times when you were low energy.
Sure.
And you were cynical about things.
Sure. I'm Jewish. I'm also
So he was
self-deprecating
in
and
a good mood.
narcissistic. So
So he was in a good mood.
But I've never seen you on the verge of giving up, but I've never seen you fully burned out. Either one of you.
right.
And also always, whenever I walk into the restaurant, when you see one another, you light up, both of you. It's silly. It's silly.
I like silly.
I think, make no mistake, too, Adam and I, in starting this business, created an extension of ourselves. So part of why it's not challenging to work 14-hour days emotionally is because you're all in. And you're not just all in being present, but it's not just our work, it's our life.
It's you being you.
It's us
Oh, there
being...
are more
it's-
lucrative things to do.
Yeah, I mean,
No
it is.
mistake.
It is us being us, and I joke about saying it's our labor of love, but it truly is, and so it's very enjoyable. When people aren't and having the best of time, something isn't clicking in the way it should. We're personally feeling that sense of like, what can we do differently? How do we improve this?
Yeah.
An entree is dragging somehow and not getting to the table. What can we do? And we're constantly working that way together. We've been working that way together, and we're instilling that on the team. And while we don't take probably as many days off as we should, we do feel comfortable when we do take days off. I mean, we just a few months ago went on a rather long vacation, 17 days, I
17
think.
days.
17 days. And
Whoa! I didn't
know.
know you guys ever did that.
Oh, and,
Yes,
and
yes.
we went on a vacation, by the way, that there's no real internet.
Yeah.
Cell phones don't work because we were in the Baltic Sea.
Yeah. And our team did great. They did really well. I think, they're probably wanting to lean on somebody to say, okay, Adam, can you, do this thing that I don't do as often? So I think it was healthy for the team as well. Because when you are there all the time, the team knows that, and so they can kind of, it's like the default.
Yeah, they had to rely on themselves.
They had to rely on themselves.
A real quick anecdote. We had a regular. His name was Paul, and I'll leave it at that. But Paul says he comes in a couple years ago at this point, and he says, it's so great seeing you and Stacy here. You need to make sure to take time for yourself. And he says, you work too much. You need to take some time off. Older gentleman, retired at this point. And I turned to Paul and I said, you're right. We try to take time off when we can. As a matter of fact, we were thinking about maybe taking this coming Sunday off. And he goes, oh, I was going to come in. Should I not?
Oh, I can't believe that he did that. I can't believe he... Really?
Yeah.
He didn't... Did he catch himself?
I don't know if he did or didn't, but it was like, huh.
No, you can't... Look, you can't... I get... You can't use that as an example.
What do you mean I can't use that as an example? It couldn't be more blatant. I don't even think he took a breath in between making the comment about we need to take time off and him saying, gosh, I was thinking about coming in with my friends.
Should I not?
Should I not? I know.
Come on, Paul. I hope he's listening to this and can write you guys a sweet note. But I do understand. On the other hand, I do understand as a regular who loved coming in and seeing you guys, and I would come in and see a manager who maybe didn't know me.
Yeah.
I would want to see you. That said, that represents, I would guess, 2%.
No, more than that. But I would say the last time we went on vacation, we had a number of regulars come up to us when we came back, and they said they were happy to see us gone.
Okay, good. So thank you for counterbalancing.
Absolutely.
I want to turn to sex and passion, but sex and passion.
Nice.
Now, the reason is we've had people calling in and saying, well, first, you don't talk enough about sex on the show. Okay, so I want to make people happy.
Sure, of course.
But specifically...
Well, that's the point of sex, right?
Is to talk about it?
Is to make people happy.
I could be both. So, and one listener asked about sex after baby, after having children, because there's always that dip,
right,
stereotypically in sexual passion.
I can only speak from what I've read.
But
yes,
you two did birth this extraordinarily time-consuming and energy-consuming business.
Right.
And I think that it's probably pretty similar. So I want to know, if sex and passion dies in a relationship, the relationship soon atrophies as well. What's it been like? What's the arc been like?
I don't know what the healthy amount of sex is.
Well, I think it's subjective.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
I think that, we start with intimacy before the physicality of sex. We have a very rich, intimate relationship. And, I not sexy, but feel comfortable being able to, fart in front of my husband.
I love that example. People use that one all the time, and
Yeah.
it's so true, isn't it? Like
Yes.
if you can just let that go.
Yes, I mean
What's funny is I don't feel comfortable farting in front of myself.
Right.
But,
Well, that's because you have to.
yes. Exactly.
But I would say, it starts there, and it's a very different experience than meeting somebody for the first time and, maybe having a one-night stand. I mean, I can have a physical experience with someone, a sexual experience with someone, but it wouldn't even come close to the depth and intimacy that I share with Adam.
If you only sleep 4 hours a night, though, I can imagine you coming home and saying, we really probably should have sex.
I just washed my hair, though.
Yeah.
But there's no way I'm going to tonight.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I think it's...
and I still love you, but...
Yeah.
Which after X number of days and months and years turns to...
Which is where passion and intimacy has to come into play.
Totally.
That has to fill that gap.
Well, also, keep in mind, we've both reached an exhaustion point for the same exercise that we did. So if you think about after you've worked out and you want to just veg out and, maybe watch television, or you want to release something, we have each other that we can, have a very intimate sexual experience after a really long day. I mean, it maybe sound
Wait, you're saying because
counter.
you both did the same thing to make you exhausted, so you understand?
We're both in the same place. It's not like, I had a long day, sweetheart. Do you mind? But the other one didn't. We're both in sync and in rhythm with each other.
Yeah.
So if I've got a headache, he's probably got a headache.
We both have our period at the same time.
We both have our period at the same time. If I'm feeling a little frisky, he's probably feeling a little frisky himself.
Sure.
I don't know. No, I don't get that. I love the theory. I can see how you're both be tired at the same time.
Yeah.
You understand the hard day that each of you had. That doesn't necessarily translate to both being frisky at the same time.
I think there hasn't been too many occasions where Adam has, we've gotten home and he's like, hey, you want to, we don't really say, do you want to, but makes the move, and I turn it down and give him I have a headache.
Do you know his move though? That's interesting because you just said that he doesn't say it, but you know it.
Yeah.
By the way, a lot of couples don't. Did you know that?
Really?
What? Say it?
Don't know it?
Don't know the signals. One person will be giving, this is actually a really common challenge for couples, is that one person will be giving the signals that they think are the way to communicate that they want sex, and the other person just doesn't even notice them.
So what's recommended,
Actually,
by the way?
I do.
That they say it out loud. That they sit down.
Say it out loud?
They sit down and first talk about how to communicate their desire, and then they agree on the way, and then they practice it.
I would say
Sure.
I don't know if we've ever walked through it in that way. But I think I do know Adam's signals. He,
Breathing.
yeah. He's stripped down naked and he's,
My heart's pumping.
his heart's pumping. I can tell. He's as
Nothing
obvious.
to do that he's naked. It's
Exactly.
It's the fact that he's awake,
He's like a bull in a china shop. He's pretty obvious. No, I think. Okay, well, here is probably a good example. We spend a lot of time in our professional mode. We're working together. We have an intimacy. We're in the professional mode. And so we don't show a lot of physical affection in the restaurant.
Right.
And we've made that conscious decision because we don't want team members to feel uncomfortable in any way.
Right.
And so oftentimes we may, take the elevator. This would be great when the staff ever listens to this. We take the elevator down and we're, hugging or giving each other a kiss or some moment. But we do spend most of our day not having physical contact with each other. And so when I'm saying we're in sync, we may get home and we're both kind of starving for it.
Yeah.
And so what I'll sense from Adam is this: he'll start to spoon me or just start to come deeply into my space. And
does it take an adjustment period?
No, not really.
What do you mean by
adjustment from the day? Yeah, actually, wine helps with that. Actually,
Totally,
having a glass of wine and unwinding to break from. That's probably the challenge that we would have is saying, okay, let's stop talking about work
and stop being about work.
Yeah. So that is definitely an area that we've maybe still have challenges, but have worked through and talked about. Adam mentioned earlier about going to the beach in the morning. That's really about our time. And we try not to introduce any work topics. We spend more time talking about what we want to do in the house. So, aspirations that we have, things that, we're wanting to go on vacation, what have you. But coming home from the end of the everyday life, the intimacy will stop. The sex would stop if we didn't stop talking about work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, guys, thanks so much for being on the show. Now, I like to end episodes with a game of this or that.
Okay.
You know how that works?
No, but
No.
we're going to find out.
You are. Okay. I'm going to keep it easy. Geisha or samurai?
Oh, samurai.
Samurai.
Really?
No
Yeah.
geisha? Really?
Murder versus sex.
Well,
I mean, I just characterized that
you
pretty
totally did.
starkly. Because I would choose
Sex,
samurai.
but I want him to be choking me. Does that count?
That was the point of the whole show. Was that line right there. Okay. Batman or Superman?
Batman. Dark.
Because he's
Dark.
Just a little dark.
Yeah. Superman's
Choking again.
Choking, yeah. Dimension I like to be choked.
We're going to have some very titillated listeners. Okay.
Plus, he has all those fun gadgets.
Yeah.
Toys are fun.
That you can use for choking.
Used for choking, exactly.
It's like at the end of a fortune cookie.
We are in the hospital.
Choking.
Okay. And if you had to choose enlightenment or $1 billion,
Oh, we do these questions all the time.
you do?
No.
You do?
Yeah, we do. We end.
Can I pay someone to get enlightenment?
Can I buy enlightenment?
buy
Everybody
enlightenment?
always asks, and I have to say the
No.
genie doesn't know the answer.
It's true.
You're just gonna take the guess.
The enlightenment.
Enlightenment.
Really? I'm gonna go cash. Well, no, I
Well,
don't.
good. You
something's-
take one, I'll take the other.
Done.
and
We just got
have
both.
If you had $1 billion, would you keep running Bluestem?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys, come on, $1 billion.
Yes.
You could buy a yacht. hang
No,
out
I'd
on
buy a
island.
manager, but
No, we would.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else are we going to do?
I've always said that too. Whenever I'm doing something I love, that's like the test.
Yeah.
I would for sure still doing the show.
Absolutely.
Without question. In fact, I might just pretend I didn't have the money.
I might. Yeah. Be nice, though.
Okay. And well, if you play this all the time, what's a question that you ask?
We ask things like if you were a candy bar, what would you be?
Okay, if you're a candy bar, what would you be?
Whatchamacallit. Kind of crunchy, kind of chocolatey, but nobody really knows what it is.
I think I'd still go to the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
There you go.
Oh yeah, that's so good. I think I'd go Butterfinger. I don't know why, but I just
yeah.
love the taste of those things.
Texture.
Texture, yeah. If it's right, because sometimes it's just not. It's too
Yeah.
dense.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't had a Butterfinger in probably 15
You're
years.
You're totally going to get one.
I don't know. I think it's probably made of butter,
Yeah.
which would kill me.
Yeah.
Probably.
All right. Okay.
Mr.
So,
Lactose.
last question:
Yeah.
if you had to either live for infinity or die in the next 5 minutes, which would it be?
What?
Well, I wouldn't have any regrets if I died in 5 minutes.
I'm on that one too.
But I wouldn't want to live to infinity. I like that there's a limited amount of time. I take advantage of
Yep.
every moment.
So death.
Well, when you put it that way, do I choose death over life? I mean, you're like one of those,
Batman.
one of those freelancers out on the street that's like, do you want to stop women getting beaten? Like, come on, man.
I know, I
How can
hate
you
that.
ask that question?
But I didn't put it that way. You interpreted it that
Yeah,
way.
sorry,
I-
fine. I would take the 5 minutes.
You would.
Yep.
You take death. Now I'm putting it that way.
Yes,
Yeah.
you just did. And for the record, that's the second time. Podcast listeners, please confirm that. Can you debunk it?
Fact check.
Stacey, too?
Fact check.
Death. Yeah. Oh yeah. You did. You already said it.
Yeah.
Death. Yeah. I would too. I think.
I would.
All right, you guys. Love you both. Thanks for being
Love
in
you too,
here.
Eric. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye. Well, that's it for our interview with Adam and Stacy, folks. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to check out their restaurant, you can find it at bluestembrasserie.com. That's BLUESTEMBRASSERIE.com. And I'll put a link to that in our show notes in case you didn't get the spelling. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. I can't tell you what a huge difference it makes for our ratings when folks subscribe, so I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to support what we're up to, check out our Patreon campaign. You can find our campaign at patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide, and that's also where we have our online magazine. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide, and I love hearing from folks, so don't be shy. Well, that's all for today, folks. We'll see you next week, and in the meantime, I'll leave you with this.
2 turntables and a microphone.
Oh my God.
Do it again.
One lonely beastie I be, all by myself without nobody. Riding across the land, kicking up sand, share posses on my tail because I'm in demand.
I didn't
Looking
even
for
know.
a girl, I ran into a guy.
I didn't even know you knew that.
Stacy, can you match that at all?
No, I can't. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
That's not, that's actually not bad. You just got something there.